Welcome back to SledgeHammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Sarah Demlow. Sarah, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I am doing so good. So I got to be transparent here. Sarah and I go way back. We are homies for a very long time, and it's such an honor to be able to work with you doing something like this, Sarah. Now, before we talk about why you're here, I want people to get to know you a little bit. Sarah is a hair and makeup artist by trade. She was randomly asked by a client one day to do some witchy photo shoots, and the next thing they knew, they were partners together. Along with modeling for photos, though, she also does hair and makeup for photography clients. Now, before we get too deep into that, because I know I want to talk a little bit more about you and your modeling, but you've been doing hair for a very long time. You've been doing makeup for a very long time. Was it kind of just like a dream come true for you to meet up with Mysti and kind of make this thing into like almost like a career?
Yeah, honestly, like when she came to me and asked me to do the witchy photo shoot, she confessed to me that she was nervous as hell. And I was like, when you asked me, like I heard angels sing and I was like, I was meant for this. Like
Right.
but really it was just fun. Like I thought I was gonna do a witchy photo shoot and it was just gonna be fun to help like promote her. And then the next thing I knew, she was like, well, why don't we like do this and we'll start doing like team shoots and promote your makeup and hair. And I was like, let's do that. And yeah, it has felt so surreal and it's happened so fast. Like,
Yeah. And I'm super, super proud of you because not only that, but you've been on a couple fantasy book covers and one also set to come out this winter. And you're currently a featured model in almost 10 photography magazines, including one cover and one back cover. And like I said, as somebody that's been your homie since we were kids, like I am so goddamn proud of you, and like nobody deserves this more than you do. So now with the modeling, is this something that you're going to continue to pursue, or is hair and makeup kind of that's your safety net, that's your biggest point?
I go back and forth. Like I'm loving both aspects of it so much that I would definitely continue both. Like if other people came to me and said, hey, would you model for me for this? I'd be like, yeah, I'd try it out for a fee. You know what I mean?
Right.
That type of thing and just see where it went. Um but I also enjoy being able to do hair and makeup for other people. Like I have love in that. So it's cool. Both like it's both. I don't think I'd be able to give one up completely at this point.
Sure. Well, and you've been doing it for such a long time that it's almost second nature to you. And then, for the modeling, that's something that, none of us were really shocked when you started modeling because you've always just been so beautiful and so dope. And it's something that, we kind of always felt like it was a natural progression in the way that you were going. Um, Now, Mysti, your partner, as you guys seen on the thumbnail, they do amazing photography. And you can follow them at all their social media links. I got all of Sarah's, I got Misty's down here in the description as well. So that way you guys can stay up to date on their modeling and everything they're doing. Now this episode doesn't come out till December, but in the time now, do you have anything coming up that people can be excited about?
Um, so we recently just did my Halloween shoot. I do a Halloween every year that I wrangle my boyfriend into, and so he's going and does whatever I want. Amazing. So we just debuted Cruella. Since my hair's been like this, people have been bugging me to be Cruella, and I cave for the people. um, so those pictures are coming out. She's actually getting ready to post some more as we get closer to Halloween. I haven't even seen them all yet. So that's the big one right now. We have some thought of for winter sessions, but kind of under
Right.
under wraps at the
Sure.
moment. So
And by the time this episode airs, all you guys can do is click the links in the description and you can stay up to date on all of their pictures and everything they have coming up in the future. And I'm so excited to see where this goes for you, not just for you, but for Mysti as well, because you guys are great people. And to see that this is going so well, like I said, getting magazine covers, back covers, being featured on fantasy books, that's amazing. And for me, it's easy for me to just say, go, oh, that's cool. But I'm proud of you, like
thank
from one
you.
friend to another friend. Like it's amazing, and I'm so glad to have you on here because we're going to be talking about a movie that obviously means a lot to you, but it means a lot to me too. And I don't think that's a secret to anybody that knows me or knows the channel. So Sarah, let's go back to the past here for a second and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Sarah, the first horror movie that you watched was?
So that's a loaded question, Ken. My first horror movie was Jaws, but we can't talk about it because it traumatized the shit out of me. and I have like blocked half of it from my memory. I'm still terrified of sharks to this day. So we're going to my second technical horror movie, which was The Shining.
Right. And trust me, if there's one movie that I would talk about just as much as Jaws, it's The Shining. And I know that when we started talking about this, you were like, I think it was Jaws, but I don't want to fucking talk about that movie. And I was like, I get it. You know,
I can't even bring myself to rewatch it to like
right.
know anything that actually happened because it literally I can't watch Sharks on TV. Like that's how severe it is. The problem. So
yeah. Well, good thing we live in the mitten because we don't got to worry about those here.
For sure.
So do you remember about how old you were, Sarah, the first time that you had seen The Shining?
I'm guessing somewhere around 12, I think.
Man, and even still, like at a young age, this is a movie that, you know, when you have like the scene of the girl in the bathtub, which obviously I can't show here because YouTube is very strict about nudity, but as a young lady discovering your body and discovering yourself, to see this beautiful woman get out of the bath and turn into what she turns into, I'm sure that that could be traumatizing for you as well. And you have the main character, which is a young boy. And I feel like, you know, as a young girl, you can still relate to that. Me as a young boy, maybe I relate to Danny a little more. Kind of like if you watch The Exorcist, you're probably going to relate to Reagan a little more than I am. So,
right.
Do you remember who you were with the first time that you had watched The Shining?
I was with my parents. Yeah.
That is so, it's so awesome to think about you watching The Shining with your dad. Like, come here, Sarah, we're going to watch this movie and we're going to teach you a thing or two.
Dude, my dad was like really good at my mom coming home from work and him having me in front of the TV watching like the worst possible things at young ages. And my mom's like, what are you doing? Like,
right. That's so cool, man. Well, I mean, and obviously it traumatized you with Jaws to the point where, oh, well, let's try something different and The Shining. And, you know, I think about it like The Shining to a child may be a little slow. So it may be a good way to start off your horror life, but it is still scary. And in order for a movie to be super scary and super memorable, there have to be scenes that affect us more than others. So which scene from The Shining would you say it was, Sarah, that affected you the most?
So I think the part where my brain was like, oh shit, this is like real, this man is crazy, was the scene where he's walking at Wendy up the stairs and he's asking her what they should do about Danny. And he's like, I'm not gonna hurt you, I'm just gonna bash your brains in. And I was like I had like an awakening at that point. Like I was like, oh, like this man's actually lost his mind and wants to kill his family. And then she hits him with a baseball bat, drags him down the stairs, drives him to the pantry. And I was like, after that, I was glued. Like I was like, shit just got real as hell.
Dude, and at that moment, because at first you're like, oh, well, he's not gonna hurt her. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. Bash him right the fuck in. Ha! And he does that little laugh, like, I think that's gonna hurt, Jack. I may be wrong here, but word on the street is getting your brains bashed in hurts a little bit.
Yeah, that just doesn't seem very friendly. That
and it's amazing how, to me, you know, obviously you got the here's Johnny, you know, but dude, to me,
the best ad lib that ever happened to me to this day.
Yes.
For
but
sure.
I still think that part on the stairs is probably the most iconic moment of the whole movie for me. It's just a scene that is so beautifully shot, and it, you know, the two long one takes that are going at once to go back and forth between them, and the pure fear on Shelley Duvall's face.
Yes.
And it's just, this moment is so iconic to me. And between that and Danny riding his tricycle, you know, moments to me are just things that are burned into my head for the rest of my life.
It's crazy to me to say that because one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, I always think it's so stupid when I say it, but my favorite part in that movie is when he's riding the tricycle through the hotel and he's hitting the different floor textures. Mm-hmm. That noise like does something to my brain, and like I love it so much. There's something about the just rolling of the tricycle, the hotel just gets me every time.
Well, it's funny because like you just watched that scene play over top while Sarah and I were talking. Everybody heard it, even though there was no volume. You all heard what was happening on that scene, and that to me is the definition of iconic. So, I usually ask people, "What's your favorite kill from your first horror movie?" And if my recollection serves me right, there's really only two major kills in this movie.
There's I like to say 1 kill and 1 death.
Sure. So of the two, which one would you say was the most effective to you?
So, like, I as much as I love a good gory kill, like axe to the heart, that's wonderful. I love like cut off limbs. I love gore, but I think the one that really like stuck with me was Jack freezing in the snow, and it just like flipped to the part of him just slumped over in the snow, like looking psychotic still, and I like that
Yeah.
for me. I was like, yes, like
And that has been parodied on everything from Family Guy to South Park to, like everybody does the
yep,
frozen face. Like that's been done everywhere.
it's
So
just epic. You
um
can't. It's amazing.
another it is. It's one of those things that it's such a poetic thing to happen. He pushed everyone away and then he literally ends up dying alone, a frozen shell of a man, like he started to become once he came to the Overlook. Um, so a question I ask everybody, would with Hollywood right now, remakes, requels, sequels, kind of all the rage right now. Would you like to see The Shining remade today?
Well, I mean, I know they made a remake at one point, but it was like, to my knowledge, because Stephen King wasn't exactly perfectly happy with the original, but it was really long and crazy. I would like to see one and see how it goes. I would watch it for sure. It could be interesting, and with like graphics and stuff today, and all the technology, if they did it right, and I would love to see Jack Nicholson back because he did such a great job of playing a psychopath. Like he
Oh,
did
for
amazing.
sure. Did you see Doctor Sleep?
No, I didn't. We were just talking about it the other day, and I was like, man, I need to see it so bad.
Dude, I think that Doctor Sleep could possibly be the best sequel of all time. And I'll say, like,
Really?
for me personally, I enjoy Doctor Sleep more than I do The Shining. I think The
Oh,
Shining is probably the better film of the two. But the great thing about Doctor Sleep is I'm not going to spoil anything because you haven't seen it, but the premise of it is it's Danny in the future. And he ends up going back to the Overlook and all these different things are happening. And it's oh, dude, it's so good. Like you get the introduction of Rose the Hat, who I think is possibly one of the best villains of all time. Me and Ashley did our Maniac Madness in March, and Rose the Hat made it to the finals for me
that's
against
awesome.
Pinhead. Like that's how much. And then Abra, you get a young lady that has the Shining and her ability to help Danny. And oh, dude, you gotta
Oh
watch
yeah, I
Doctor
gotta
Sleep.
watch. That's next
Like
on the list.
it's so good. Like I cannot recommend. And the best thing about it you could never have seen The Shining and watch Doctor Sleep, and it'll totally make sense. Like it does
Oh,
not
awesome.
rely on The Shining. Like the third act all takes place in the Overlook Hotel, and there's a lot of real cool throwbacks. Like there's a part where Ewan McGregor looks in the door where he did the Here's Johnny, and him and Rose the Hat are, he's backing up the stairs away from Rose the Hat. Like there's a couple cool nods,
That's
but
awesome.
overall, it's its own film, and I think it's brilliant that way. So, Sarah, we've talked about your first horror movie briefly, being Jaws, and how much that scared you. And then
Yep.
we talked about the first horror movie you sat all the way through and was able to enjoy with The Shining. But now my buddy Ghostface is here, Sarah, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Sarah? What is your favorite horror movie
Favorite
of
scary.
all
That's
time?
a really, really hard one for me because like I feel like I have like the new level of scary movies and then like the old scary movies. I mean, I really have like this soft spot for When a Stranger Calls because my
Mhm.
mom will still occasionally call me and how she answers the phone is have you checked children because she's a psychopath. So I
I
mean, she
don't
also
have
does.
kids, Mom. Well,
Yeah,
not
no.
anymore. You don't.
Dude, she told me the other she works in an elementary school, right? To this day, works in elementary school. She said she came
Mhm.
around like the teacher's lounge recently and yelled, "Here's Johnny" when she came around the corner, and I was like, "Oh my god, mom!" Like,
Your mom's such a G, dude. If you're
oh,
watching
she's
this, I love you.
amazing. She is amazing.
Um, it's
But
funny because we just had this conversation about When a Stranger Calls and how it's such an influential movie. Like, everywhere from Black, a Black Christmas. The calls are coming from inside the house. That all comes from When a Stranger Calls. And one of the most underrated final girls of all time, by the way. Like her ability to shed evil throughout that movie, absolutely
yeah,
fantastic. So
agreed.
I can't argue about When a Stranger Calls. So here's another question I've been asking recently. You're only the third person to get to ask this question. you're meeting somebody that hasn't watched a horror movie ever, and they want to watch a recent horror movie. You have to recommend one horror movie from the last 5 years to somebody. What would you say the horror movie that is the most recent horror movie that you enjoyed the most?
I enjoyed the most. I don't know. I have like a little bit of a weak spot for like the Conjuring movies a little bit. They're fun ones to me. I really love a good psychological thriller. I really think The Shining is what started my love for psychological thrillers. Like that's what did me in. They're probably high on my list of favorites. But oddly enough, I got really unhealthily obsessed with the Saw series at one point in time. So I guess it would depend. Like if you like gore, I'd be like, dude, that will mind fuck you and it's bloody as shit. But as far as like scaring you, I would probably go with the Conjuring series for people. That shit is like the fact that like it's based on when a movie is based on true events, that's where I start to feel fear inside. Like
dude, I still like we got to have you out here one night, man, because I got to show you guys The Dark and the Wicked. Like,
yes,
in the last 10 years, The Dark and the Wicked, like, I'm serious, dude. Like, I was watching it with Ash. It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was like, hey babe, you can open the blinds if you want. If you're scared, you can go ahead and make it a little, I was scared of that movie. Like, I was scared. Like, watching the movie, I was like, oh my god, this is fucking scary, dude.
there is one movie that has ever actually, like, other than Jaws, like giving me nightmares, made me afraid. And I don't think it's horror necessarily. It's scary and it's based on true events, but The Fourth Kind, which is so stupid, but like I finished watching that movie and I'll never forget. I had to ask my boyfriend at the time to go check the bathroom before I would go in the bathroom. If I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would panic because they all woke up at certain times in the night.
Yeah.
I was afraid of owls for a while. Like that really messed with me a little bit. And I don't know why it got to me so bad, but it did.
I think movies like that, like the ones that are borderline horror, those to me, like horror is the hardest genre to lock down. Cause like I'm a big believer that like Flowers in the Attic is a total horror movie to me. Like I've had that argument with people. Ghostbusters is a horror movie to me. So I mean, like I think horror is what you make it. Like you can't lock it down like, well, it's got to have blood and guts. ER has blood and guts. It's not horror.
Right.
It's got to have death. The Lion King and Bambi have death. You know what I mean? Like, so horror is just that when I can have something that genuinely scares me to my core, that's horror to me. Like if I'm scared, you've done your job. Jurassic Park, another one that I've had millions of arguments about.
Dude, Jurassic Park, that is probably my all-time favorite series ever. I own every one of them to this day. I have a dinosaur obsession, so it's fine. I mean, my name is Triceratops on all my social media. So
right. I'll fight to the death that Jurassic Park's a horror movie, just like the Terminator. I think the Terminator is one of the best slasher films of all time. Like he literally goes through the phone book, finds every Sarah Connor, and goes to kill. Like that, there's nothing more slasher to me than that.
That's true. That is so true.
So Sarah, it's amazing as always to get to hang out with you for a little bit. Now to talk horror has been even more fun. But before I let you go, what we're going to do, we're not going to bounce back to your first horror movie because I know what that's getting. But what we're going to do is we're going to bounce back to The Shining. And what we're going to do is we're going to rank this on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking The Shining on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. What we're doing is strictly ranking The Shining on how much it affected you on first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Sarah, what would your ranking of The Shining be?
I'm probably going to go with like a 3.5, 4. It was up there just because for me, it was my turning. Like it was like, I loved it in like the most horrific way. Like I knew right then that horror movies were for me. And then after that, like it started my chain of, I have to watch all of them that I can. Like after that, I started watching, the Halloween, the Jason, the Freddy's, like it was nonstop after that. And honestly, Chucky doesn't love Chucky. You have, right? Like, you're a horror lover, you gotta have love for Chucky. My niece was Chucky for Halloween, so
Child's Play is my favorite franchise of all time. Like, I think the Child's Play franchise has been through so much ups and downs, and even like the worst, in my opinion, the worst Child's Play movie is Seed of Chucky, and that's still better than a lot of other films and other franchises that are considered the best in the franchise. it's so consistent. The comedy lands, the horror is there. It's got great action sequences. Like Child's Play 3 is one of my favorite movies of all time. And you got the ending of them in that carnival and like Chucky getting his face cut off by the scythe and going to that industrial sized fan. And Chucky is still kicking ass today in the TV series. Now,
Hell yeah, he is.
maybe I won't like season 2 as much. By the time this airs, I'll have my full opinion. Right now, I'm hit and miss on the season 2, but shit, man, Chucky is the dopest. So I can't argue with that at all. So
I should do a Chucky makeup look and put it online. Have fun with it. Maybe that'll be next on my list. Maybe I'll do a
I'm
Halloween
just sitting here with my
special.
fingers crossed. If you do, I promise
do
I'll
it
share
for
it
you.
everywhere. Please do it. Please, God. No, you guys got to do it. You got to be Tiffany. Go all out with it, man. So guys, I do want to say one more time. I said it at the beginning. I'm gonna take this jacket off. Now we're not talking about The Shining anymore, and I'm hot as hell. I said it at the beginning, but I want to say it again. All of their social media links, not only for Sarah but for Mysti, they're all down in the links below in the description. So make sure you're clicking them. Make sure you're following them on social media so you can stay up to date on everything they're doing. Because here in the Midwest, we love each other, and these girls are amazing, and they do amazing work. No one fades me up but Sarah. I'm just throwing that out there. That's a fact. And their photography is great. Her makeup that she does is great. Ashley gets all her hair, makeup, everything done by Sarah. She's been a close friend of our families for a very long time. And she's somebody that obviously I trust with my body. Ashley trusts with her body. And the work that they do is so phenomenal. And with the photography and the modeling. And she's somebody that I really think deserves the whole world. So make sure you're following her on social media so you can stay up to date on everything that they're doing. Sarah, don't go anywhere, love. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.